I'll tell you when you're live. It takes a moment for this bar to go.
I'm
And
not
you
alive.
are live.
Hi, everybody. John Townsend here. Welcome to the Dr. Townsend Live Show. This is a program where very simply we just answer questions about life. And they are about anything from relationship stuff to family stuff to dating, marriage, parenting, your own parents, friends, colleagues, business, emotions. We're all emotional people, especially with the COVID thing going on, and trauma, anxiety, depression, and especially most of our calls tend to be about, hey, I got a relationship problem, because we live and die with relationships. So we're here every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific time, live. That's why the L for DTL live is an L. And what we like to do here is to make it live for you too. So it's a live call-in program. All you do is you get on whatever venue you're on. You might be on Twitter Live, or it might be on YouTube Live right now, or Facebook Live, or LinkedIn Live. Love all the lives. And if you see it, then just call that number, and we can talk. And it's fun to talk, because then I kind of get to hear your voice and get a feel for what you're dealing with. I get the information much, much better. But if you can't call, type it in there. I'll answer it, and we'll still give you some help in all these issues. So Stacy, our producer, is right now talking to who's going to be next. Hi, Stacy.
Hey there, John. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. So I know that while Stacy's getting people ready, that you might have seen the email, the little video that I always send out before the show, that I made one about the topic of how do you know when you're being disrespected? Ever had that feeling? Sometimes people go away from a meeting and they don't know until they're driving in their car back home, or they've turned off their Zoom and they're getting a cup of coffee, and they go, I think I just got disrespected. It's sort of like there's this delay where the person is like talking down to you, or judging you, or like making you feel like an idiot or whatever, being sarcastic in not safe ways. And you're just kind of in the middle of trying to solve the problem, or talking about something, some topic you're on. Didn't think about the emotional part. It's just like, oh, we're talking about numbers, we're talking about business, talking about kids, talking about, vacations. You weren't feeling the feelings that were really going on. And then 50 minutes later, you go, ouch, did I just get disrespected? So the whole email video is about that. But how do you know? Well, I'll tell you several ways you can know. One of those is if you feel like you're not being heard, H-E-A-R-D, not heard like a herd of cows, H-E-A-R-D. If you feel like you're not being attended to, I don't mean the show is yours, it's just all about you. But when you feel like you have a point of view, an opinion on something, maybe about a struggle or about a challenge you have, or something that's going on in your life. And, great relationships are mutual. Somebody says, let me talk about my life and listen to you. Okay, talk to your life, listen to me. And we feel like they're kind of waiting for you to draw a breath so they can say their life. That's not very respectful. Another one is, and this is kind of I would call it a covert or subtle one, is when anytime you admit a fault, they kind of glom onto it in a funny way. Like you're always the clown, you're always the idiot, you're always the goofball, you're always the screw up. And it comes across in a funny way, like, oh, there you go again. Oh my gosh, yeah, I know in those situations you are so awkward. I don't mind that. I mind it if it happens 90% of the time. But when it happens a lot, there's probably some disrespect going on. It's time to nip it in the bud and say, hey, be nice to me. So somebody's coming in, and Stacy, we got a name and all that good stuff, and it sounds like this person's live. So welcome to the program.
That's right. Welcome to the Dr. Townsend Live Show. You're live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead with your question.
And just give us your first name and where you are in the world.
Caller, are you with us? Maybe not. Okay. We'll try them again.
Try it again. Then while you're going to, try back, it's a tech world, but while are you doing that, let me just kind of get to the now what. So you feel like it's all about them, or you feel like they can't wait to show me what an idiot I am and how I screw up so much. What do you do about it? You don't fight fire with fire. I never believe in going to the level of, coming at a person as bad as they're coming at you, unless you're in a war. But there's a vulnerable way to say, by the way, that's kind of that can be a little sore spot for me when you talk about how bad I am at public speaking or how I parent my kids a certain way. And I know you probably don't mean that, they might, but assume the best. And so I'd like it if we could kind of do that in a different way. A lot of people that aren't really seriously disrespectful will go, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. My spouse tells me I did the same thing too. Sorry about that. I won't do it again. And then you're fine. So little things like that can help. Hey, we've got, looks like F as in Frank, B as in boy, and somebody's coming on. Stacy, we got a name yet?
Not yet. Caller, you're live with Dr. Townsend. Are you with us? Oh, let's see. They're muted. Let's ask them to unmute themselves. Caller, can you hear us? I'm looking for FB. Okay. Seems like we have some tech gremlins today.
Okay, 0 for 2.
If you can hear us, FB, give us a shout back and you can chat with Dr. Townsend.
Love to talk to you. Now, you know that speaking of the disrespect dynamic, if you've been watching the program at any time, you know I have these 4 levels of severity of a problem, an attitude problem, or in the world I come from, a psychopathological problem. There's 4 levels. First, there's a 0, which means the person doesn't have that issue. They may have other issues, but they don't have an issue with disrespect, right? Then level 1 is mild. Level 2 is moderate. Level 3 is severe. Those of you who've been on for a while. Sorry, this is so bad. Here I'm doing a show, and I've got this, what do you call it? It's a citrus flavored sparkling water like machine at the house, which makes it easy because I don't like water. It's kind of boring after a while, but the citrus kind of makes it interesting. The sparkling makes it drink. But guess what? So it kind of makes you burp. And here I am doing a show and having to struggle with burping. I think was a bad idea. Anyway, bear with me. So it's a 0. They don't have an issue. If it's a 1, it means mild. It means they do it every now and then and probably aren't really aware of it. And they feel kind of embarrassed when you say, gosh, that kind of stung when you said I was such an idiot, or when you kind of felt a little judgy, and they go, sorry, yeah, I see I can do that. Now I'm really sorry. And we're friends. And, I'm a big believer in having those kind of conversations early in a relationship, or early as soon as you experience it. Because when you nip it in the bud, it doesn't have time to metastasize the cancer and everything's fine. Let's go to levels 2 and 3 though. There's mild, moderate, severe. So level 2 is moderate. And moderate means the person might be aware of it, but it's like, it doesn't bother them. They do it very much. And so when you mention it, the moderate is likely to say, well, what about the things you do? And we go, yeah, I do mess up a lot, and I'd love to deal with that later because I can't do 2 conversations at once. But yeah, it's hard. And a moderate, after a couple of those of blaming and avoiding and evading and making excuses, will then go, well, yeah, maybe I can't do that. Yeah, maybe some people, like everybody, told me I do it. And then you're kind of okay. Just takes more work. And then the severe, well, I'm from the South originally. We call them the bless their heart people. The bless their hearts, they'll never admit it, for either because they're too sort of into themselves, or they don't like to ever have mistakes, or they're shame-based, or they're entitled, or whatever. And all you get is the I don't do it, you do. And honestly, the severes are hopeless until they either experience great pain, which I hate to say, but the Bible and the science say that sometimes people change because of their good-heartedness. Like, Jesus said, blessed are those who mourn because they shall be comforted. Brokenness helps us to open up. And they have to break somehow. And some people but that's not the good-heartedness part. That's the kind of like feeling pain part. But then other people just want to be a good person. But maybe this person doesn't have either. they'd rather just be right than have a relationship. And that's when you have to say, I really don't want to have these kind of conversations, set some limits. And sometimes people will respond to that. You hope that. But with the severes, don't skip right to, I know they're severe. Give them the benefit of the doubt of, well, maybe it's just a glitch. Maybe they're mild, maybe they're moderate. Don't jump to the severe until you've seen it over time. But don't get yourself hurt either. Don't have a million disrespectful conversations coming towards you, while you're in that space. You've got to limit the damage. Stacy, we got somebody?
Yes. Before I go to the question, let's remind everyone to call in with their questions to the number. And the number is 1-877-853-5257. That's 1-877-853-5257. And when you dial that number, you're going to enter an ID code, a meeting ID code to enter the waiting room. And that ID code is 876-5437-2012. 876-5437-2012. Just a reminder so that everybody has the number to be able to call in and actually speak with you.
And that's also on everybody's chat line, right? You've already thrown that in there, right?
It's posted in the post where everyone is viewing this live, but sometimes it helps just to give that out. So guys, don't be shy. Go ahead and use the number and call in. Dr. Townsend's here to help you today. So you have a Twitter viewer that is asking you, she says, Dr. Townsend, 3 years ago, I moved with my boyfriend across the country, and my life has to the state where he was from. My life has now become his life. In other words, all of my friends are back where I live, and I'm now friends with all of his friends. And I feel like I don't have any autonomy of my own. Living in another state, how can I create some space where I feel like I am having my own friends versus just letting his friends be my tribe?
That sounds lonely. I'm sorry to hear you experience that. And I can see the problem. I mean, when we care about somebody, we want to sacrifice, and maybe there was a job thing on somebody's part or whatever, but sorry, that's not fun. I've got a couple of suggestions for you, caller. The first one is to recruit him to help you. In really healthy relationships, there's always my needs are important, but yours are important too. There's a we. It's not about me versus you. It's not about all about me, for gosh sakes. It's about I care about you very, very much, and I care about my own well-being, but I really care about you. And so you have the conversation. And this is not about making anybody the bad guy here at all. It's more about we're a team, I love your friends, and I love how you are so good with your friends and family, and you got some great people. But I do feel sort of like grafted in a bit. And while I love them, it's kind of enough for me. And sometimes I'll tell somebody, caller, sort of switch it around in if you were me kind of a way. Like, so Bill, if you were in my shoes and you'd move to that state to be with me and to be with my friends, I'm sure, would you kind of feel, and if Bill's a good guy, he'll go, never thought about it the way. Yeah, I feel like displaced a bit and not knowing where I fit. So now you're getting him to feel some attunement to what you're experiencing, because maybe he just doesn't know. He's not the one that's in the discomfort that you're in. And so you say, I need new friends as well as your friends. And there's two kinds of new friends, Bill. There's either we find another couple together, another few couples together we can hang out with, have like values. We can, go to church together, go to sports events together, who knows, go to dinner. Either we can go on a search together for a new couple or several, I'd say probably three new couples over the next few months where you got good chemistry, I've got chemistry and all that. And I would love that. And then he's starting off from the same playing field that you're starting off from. And also I just got to have some gal friends that are just for me. And so I'll be kind of like, wherever you go, when people move to a new place, there's always these there's several levels of where people go, caller, that they find new people. One is they find them at church, because really healthy churches have great get-togethers and nice people who have good values, and they're fun to be with and cool and truthful and all that. And another is, so I said, I might be visiting some churches to kind of meet some friends that I just need some really good gal friends like the ones I had back in our other state. Another is work. Like, oh, I've met somebody at work and she's fun. And I feel like I can spend some time with her. And I know you got that. Sometimes you like your guy nights with the guys that you're with. I'd like to have that with these new gals. That's the second one. And the third one is community service. You know, I'm working at volunteering in a homeless shelter, or I'm volunteering at a women's domestic violence place, or I'm volunteering at a children's hospital, whatever. And I meet people there. Those are kind of the big ones. There's also being on boards and Chamber of Commerce things and such sort of things. So it's going to take some work on your part to kind of put those together. But those are the two big categories. And so one is asking him to partner with you. Number two, and then again, it's not an either or, it's a both and. It's when you say, I'll be spend some time, you know, having coffee or having lunch or having happy hour with the gal that I like, and I'll see you later when I get back, kind of a thing. So and enlist him. Hope he's a good guy about it. Hope that he understands that he would feel the same way if he were in your shoes, and hope that goes well.
Okay, John, you have another question from one of your Instagram viewers just now. She says that she saw that you were at a workshop last week, and that there was a posting made where you ask if someone is in a leadership position or a coaching or counseling position to ask themselves this question: who am I inviting into my well? And she is interested to know, her name is Tracy. She's interested to know what it means physically to invite someone into your well.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, I don't mean go, to a farmhouse and jump in a bad place. That's not what I was talking about. So when we said physically, I thought, I don't want her to do that physically. She might hurt herself. So it's for leaders, but it's also for anybody. And the concept is, it's in my book, People Fuel. I spent a lot of time on the concept, is that the way that we grow and help other people is that we give them grace or attunement. Grace is kind of is a Christian word from the Bible. Attunement's a psych word from psychology. I mean, they're not equivalents, but they're close. To give somebody the truth and help them know, then how they need to change, or how they need to be a better person, or how they need to parent better or do better business. Before we go in there and give them a bunch of truth bullets, we've got to give them grace, because nobody can hear the truth without any grace. They feel judged or mad. You feel like you're being bullied. You have to learn to give grace the truth. And the way I phrase that is, that means you've got to jump in the well of their experience with them. You've got to basically be attuned to them, and you listen to them, and you empathize, and you don't say do A, B, and C. It just means you say, I want to know more about you. It sounds like you're overwhelmed. It sounds like you're you don't feel like you're good enough. It sounds like you're sort of mad at yourself. It sounds like you feel alone. That's what we call attunement. You're attuning to their experience. So I talk about, that's how you can tell people in your life. That's how you can give the truth to people in your life, by being authentically attuned, so they can take the truth bullet. And then I turned it around, the talk that you saw or heard, the video, I think. And I always tell the audience, because I give this talk around the country, and it's this. Now, most of you who just heard this story are thinking, I've got to get in the well better. I give people advice. I give too much advice. I tell them what to do, and I try to encourage them, make them feel better. I try to bring their spirits up. And I need to get in the well because I think I'm turning people off, and you probably are. I'm turning people off because I don't attune to their experience before I do the advice and encouragement. And then I say in this talk, I know that's a good thought, and you probably should. We all need to work on that. But take that thought of, I need to get in others' well, put that in the parking lot in your head just for a moment. It's a good thought, but wait. I'm going to give you 7 words to tell you what to put in your head now, in your frontal lobe. And it's these 7 words. Who am I inviting to my well? Who am I inviting to my well? Meaning, I really can't get in their well of empathy and attunement and listen to their experience, and so they can hear truth. I can't do that until I've experienced that, because I'm giving from emptiness with something I don't even know. How can I give attunement and care and empathy if I'm not experiencing it? And I got to ask for it. And most of us hate asking for it because we feel, I don't know, we feel like we're a big burden, or we're going to be a downer on people. We feel like we're asking too much, and bad stuff. And I always hear this, especially from leaders. And the answer to that is, yeah. And here's the kind of disruptive part of this. We are burdens. Get used to it. We are burdens. Galatians chapter 6 says that we're supposed to carry each other's burdens. I have burdens, and I have people in my life team that I vent to and have them listen to me, my complaints, and love me and give me truth, but they also listen. I have burdens that I put on other people, and I have people who have burdens to put them on me, and it's a joy and a blessing. So before you say, I don't want to bother anybody, I don't want to burden anybody, we'll do what the Bible says. You are a burden. I am a burden, and that's how the world goes around. So that's what that little story was all about, and I hope that helps, Tracy.
Okay, John, you have a live caller. Caller, you're live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, what's your name and where are you in the world?
Hi, my name is Gladys Pinero, and I'm in Texas.
Hello, Gladys. Thanks for calling, and what's your question?
Okay, I have first, I give thanks God because of your book of the boundaries of the marriage. It helped me a lot. It saved literally my marriage.
Oh, thank you.
But I still have, my husband still has some issues, and sometimes I don't want to be like only pointing what he's not doing right, but he like to justify too much. I just need how to work with that without him feeling like I'm just pointing the bad stuff.
Absolutely. And a lot of people have a hard time taking feedback because it's sort of, they feel like they're being judged and like you're never satisfied with them, and they feel bad, and then they get defensive and all that. Gladys, give me one issue. Maybe there's 5, but give me the one that is the hardest to talk about.
The hard stuff about talking about with him is when I feel hurt about something that he did or he say or didn't do. That's the hardest, like to let him know how I feel.
Okay. And when you do that, when you try to do that, what kind of response does he give you?
Most of the time he gets mad, like, and other time he just absent, like he don't listen to me.
Okay.
But he just justify himself a lot. Like,
yeah, he'll make an excuse. He'll make some kind of excuse, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gladys, we're going to do a role play. Do you know what a role play is?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen us do a role play on the show?
No.
Is this your first time on the show?
Yes.
Well, welcome. Okay, so you already know what a role play is. And one of the ways that we help people to do relationships differently is we have a conversation. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to be your husband, and I will be you. And I'm going to do some things so that you can go, when we finish the role play, it'll just be a few minutes. When we finish the role play, then you'll be able to go, oh, I can try that. I can try that. 2 or 3 things that you can go, maybe it'll go better. So it's a way for you to see some skills that I do that you can take home with you. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. But I need for you to sort of channel your husband. You have to sort of like be defensive or do the justify piece. That's really important. Do the justify piece when I get ready to talk. All right, we'll see what happens. Ready?
Okay, ready.
Okay. I will call your husband. I'm Gladys. I'll call your husband Tom. Okay. So this is Gladys and Tom, and you are Tom, and I'm Gladys. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, by the way, we have a meeting set up. This is not when you're raising the kids. It's not when you're out to dinner. It's not when you're driving somewhere. I've said in a peaceful time, maybe the kids are in bed and maybe you're just sitting there watching TV. Or, can I talk about something? We've got to have a peaceful place where he is focused. So we've already got that established. So far, so good.
Yes, we don't have kids, so it's easier.
Well, that just makes it a little easier, right? Okay. Honey, can we talk about something?
He just stay quiet.
All right. Honey, did you, excuse me, can we talk about something?
I'm rolling my eyes.
Sweetheart, you're rolling your eyes. Am I doing something to bother you?
No.
Okay. So what do you think? Can we talk about something right now for a few minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. I know that sometimes when, no, well, let me just even back up, honey. I love you and I love what we have. And we have worked on our issues and I've worked on my stuff. I hope you see that I've worked on my stuff and I know you've worked on yours. So I love you and I'm so glad that we are a healthier couple than we've been. Thank you very much for that, Tom. That is means a lot to me and it makes me feel real close to you.
I love you too.
Thank you. And you know, I want to be the best wife possible. And so if I ever do anything that bothers you, upsets you, makes you feel like I don't care about you, what's important to you, do you feel free to let me know when I do something that's not okay?
No, you never do nothing wrong.
Well, thank you. I did not know I was perfect. You're lucky to be married to me, Tom. Tom, I thank you for saying that, but you and I both know I got a lot of flaws, but thank you. That was a sweet thing to say. So I want to make sure that you do feel free whenever I am not who I should be with you. And I also want, you know, when something that's, you know, is bothering me to be able to bring it to you, because I think that's how we can love and grow. Is that okay with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like good for the goose and good for the gander. So that's okay with you, sweetheart?
Yeah, I already say yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
you
rolling
did.
my eyes.
Honey, that your eyes got rolled again. What happened with the rolling eyes? What does that mean?
Oh, nothing. I'm not doing nothing. I'm just tired.
You don't generally roll your eyes when you're tired, sweetheart. Am I upsetting you by wanting to have this conversation?
No.
Okay, so we're okay right now. We can keep going. Because the rolling eyes makes me think you're irritated or frustrated when you roll your eyes. But you're saying no. You're feeling great and happy with me right now. Are you being truthful with me, sweetheart?
Just stay quiet.
Sweetheart, did you hear my question? You may just say it again.
Yeah, you can keep going.
Okay, but did you hear my question?
Yes, I did hear it, Gladys. It's just that It's always the same. I always doing something wrong.
Oh, that's how it feels?
Mm-hmm.
I am so sorry. I do not want to be a nag with you. I tell you what, I don't want to be that kind of person. After we have this conversation about the thing that I want to bring up, can we have another conversation in a few days about what you want me to change? I would love to hear about me bringing up too many things. Can we talk about it a few days from now? I'm happy to talk. You know, the Bible says, take the beam out of your eye. Could we talk about that in a few days?
Yes.
Right. So that feels kind of fair. You can bring up what you struggle with me a few days, and I can bring up what I struggle with right now.
I already told you, and I always tell you when you ask me that for me, you don't do nothing wrong.
Okay. Except you just said that I do, because you said that the thing I do wrong is that I always nag you, or something like nag you. And that's a wrong thing. If I'm just not doing nothing but picking you apart with complaints, I'd say that's a wrong thing, Tom, and that's not good. Fair enough? So let's get away from the Gladys is perfect thing. Not true. So here's what I want to talk about is that when I tell you something that hurts me, like, I don't know, maybe you do something that hurts my feelings, or say something that's unkind, or there's something you don't do that I'd like, and I bring it to you, I feel like you just make excuses and don't own it and just say, hey, sorry, I'll change. And the excuses are hard, Tom. And I'd like for that to change, so you're not giving excuses, but really looking at yourself like I want to look at myself. That's what I'd like to change.
I try, but it's not something that I think of doing it.
Oh, it's hard. It's not natural for us. It's it's a very, very hard thing to do. But what I'd like is that if you would make an effort, when I bring up something that hurts my feelings, and I'll try not to bring up too many. Who wants to have a nag in the house? But when I bring up something that hurts my feelings, I want you to, before you do anything, is to stop and go, tell me more about that, because I want to see what I'm doing. Something like that, and really be interested in hearing my hurt and changing if you need to.
Okay.
Doesn't sound real exciting.
So
Huh?
he's just working his eyes.
I'm sorry, honey. I didn't hear that last part.
Okay.
Okay, what?
I'll try again.
Again?
You
You mean you've been trying to do this and it's not working?
Yeah.
Sweetheart, I don't have a memory of you ever trying not to justify yourself. Tell me when you stop trying to justify yourself, that I can have the memory, because in my book, it's pretty much an excuse all the time. I love you, but a lot of excuses going on. So tell me about when you've tried. Maybe I missed something here.
I tried when I said I'm not going to do it, even though I forgot and still doing it.
Okay. What would help you not to forget? Should we write it down on a piece of paper and leave it somewhere in the kitchen? So when I say, so-and-so, you were really harsh with me, or you hurt my feelings, or you said you do this and you didn't do it. And before you get defensive, we pick up the piece of paper and it says, love her, listen to her, see what you can do differently. Would that help you not to forget if we hold up a piece of paper? If you forget a lot?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll write it down right now. And I thank you. I know this is not easy for you. I know it's not easy, but I think it's a very good first step. And I tell you what, tomorrow, let's talk about how bad you feel when I bring up problems to you, because I want to nip this in the bud about you justifying, and I want to nip me in the bud about me nagging too much. Okay, Tom?
Okay.
All right. Okay, done. Gladys, what did you pick up? I want to know two skills you picked up that you can do with Tom, whatever his name is.
I'm gonna write in the paper and put it on the fridge, love her, listen to her, a companion with the scripture for Ephesians 5:33.
Great passage.
That's something I'm gonna try to see if it works. And another thing, I'm gonna make him realize that I'm not perfect, because every time I ask him, he said there's nothing wrong, but he don't like me to tell when he's doing something bad. So
Well,
I guess he don't like
yeah,
that.
the reason for it, I think, Gladys, is because it sounds like he's got a lot of shame. And so if he can say, you're perfect, and then he doesn't have to be accountable for what he does, then he can stay out of the conflict. I think he wants to have no conflict in the marriage, not hear anything bad from him, then he doesn't feel shameful. And we got to get through that. So before you put that list up there, don't put love her and listen to her. Put love each other, listen to each other. Then he doesn't feel like it's a project. And see what happens. And let me know. Okay, Gladys.
Yes, okay, thank you. And
all right.
I have a question.
No, I don't have time for another
question.
question. We've got a lot of people in line. I'm so sorry. But call back. Okay, Gladys.
Okay.
All right. Hey, before we go to the next one, I hope everybody that makes sense to you that there's a thing that I like to do called you've got to have the conversation about the conversation. So sometimes do that. That's what we did. We didn't say you're mean to me, you're harsh to me. It's when I bring things up to you, you get defensive. That's talking a conversation about the conversation. Very helpful. Okay, Stacy, what's up?
Okay, so you have a LinkedIn question, LinkedIn Live, and this is a leadership question, and it is from Don, and he is asking, he is about to make a major career move, and he knows that he is walking it. He listened to the show a couple weeks ago and heard you giving advice to someone about having to be the new CEO over a new company, and the culture was very bad. And so he's kind of taking that over. So Don is in a similar situation. He's making a career move, and he knows that he is moving over to a company where the CEO was let go. And then due to COVID, much of the leadership practices that had been doing well for the company were just kind of gone by the wayside. And he is wondering what is the most effective thing he can do in his first 2 weeks as the new CEO at this company of over 150 employees to be able to bring the culture of leadership and support within the boundaries that he needs to.
Okay. Don, scary thing, but a great thing. I mean, I really wish you well in this. People are doing this all the time and it works very well, but it doesn't mean it's not a challenge. What I would do in your shoes is, as soon as I got in and said, howdy, I'm Don, welcome, I would schedule a strategic retreat. And I wouldn't even call it a strategic retreat. I would just call it a key staff retreat. And I know we got to get all 150 on board. We're not talking about those. We're talking about cascading down the key ones. If you get the key ones to go, like your C-suite, CIO, CTO, CFO, CMO, and all that, if you can get them on board and aligned, it cascades down to everybody else. Not saying you shouldn't do something with them, but you've got to get in to the key ones and connect with them. So you set up let's just call it how about this? Let's go. You call it a relaunch retreat. It's a new thing. It's energy relaunch retreat. We're still Smith shoes. We're going to relaunch with new leadership, and we're going to get everything started in a good way. Then people feel some energy. I spend a couple of days with them. And you know how I am about retreats. If you ever heard the show, I mean, get off site, go somewhere where they can't have a lot of access except for maybe their phones and all that. So there's not a lot of distractions. Get out of the building and get out of town if you can. And then you create 50% of the time in the 2 days is going to be fun, like lunches and dinners and whatever, riding horseback, going swimming. And then the other is where you sit down with them and say, I don't want to talk about me yet. I want to know all the realities, because y'all know a lot more than I do about this company. And so I want to hear from you about what's going on that you like and what's going on that needs improvement. And I'm just going to sit here and take notes. And you're on the conference table and you're listening. Maybe you ought to record it so that you won't lose any information, but you're listening. You go into listening mode. People who have a leader in a new place who comes in with a bunch of smoke and mirrors that says we're going to take the hill and all this, when they're hurting, this is the worst. This is like not getting in the well. This is like getting out of the well. And that's not what they need. They need to know they got a literacy. Before I tell you what my vision is, before I tell you what my big picture is, what I tell you what the strategy is, you guys were here and you've been bleeding. I want to hear from you. And you spend a few hours doing that, and it's awesome. And they feel like, really? He cares about me? And then what you say is, I'm not going to give you any answers right now because I got a lot of stuff to digest. This is great. You gave me all this information about what's going right, what's real trouble, and what's kind of in middle trouble. But the second part of the retreat is, let me tell you about myself. And in a couple of weeks, I'll have an answer to you for like how I want to do things strategically, and answers those things, the things we can fix now, the things we can fix later, and the things we won't be able to fix. But I'll think through this. You're right. This is a high priority. But the second thing I want to do is tell you a little bit about me, and then get to know you personally, because I think if you get to know me and what my vision for being here is, and I'm new, so my vision is still in wet cement. It needs to be informed by you. Thus, we'll wait 2 or 3 weeks until I've thought about it. But here's why I wanted to work here, and here's what I see in you people. And so let me hear your stories too. And you just go over who they are. And you talk about, how'd you get here? What's important to you? What are your values? And you get them talking about each other. And the second worst thing a CEO can do in those kind of relaunch retreats is to make it all them and the team, them and the team. You got to get them talking to each other and say, sounds like that really ties in what Beth said about growing up in the Southwest and how she learned to love, I don't know, she learned to love the artwork that was there, and it kind of meant something to her. How she brought that to Smith's Shoes. You get them talking to each other. You do a facilitative role, and then they feel led. So good luck with that, Don.
Okay, John. Karen from Facebook says that she was listening week before last when you spoke on grief. And she says that she is grieving so deeply, but not over the physical loss of a person. She is grieving over the sexual betrayal of her husband, and she's experiencing betrayal trauma. She's curious as to what advice you could offer for that type of grieving.
Karen, I am very sorry. That is one of the most painful losses a person can experience, when the one that you were supposed to be with at the deepest level for all of life breaks that. And when a person has that betrayal, not only do they feel the loss of the relationship, and whether you guys have stayed married or not, there's still a break in that connection, that trust, that intimacy. Not only does it basically turns your world upside down, but the second thing it does, it makes you begin to question if you can trust him or your spouse or anyone. It translates out to other people. We start going, maybe nobody's trustworthy. And guess what happens when we don't feel that we can trust anyone? We feel utterly, utterly, utterly alone. If they're like him, if people are like that, if they have the same capacities he has with someone else and some third party out there that he was unfaithful with, or unfaithful with me towards, maybe other people are like that, and maybe I'm picking the wrong people, and I will just shut down and go inside, and I'll be alone. So I'm basically validating that it's a very, very hard grief. Let me give you some of the steps. The first thing in the grief process is you've got to take a risk and find some safe people to do the grief with. And meaning you've got to work against what I just mentioned, which was my trust is shot. My trust is shot to hell. I don't even have it anymore. And you've got to go find some safe people, like a really good therapist. Hope you're in a safe church where there's a small group, but there's not, find one, or just some friends that are very safe, and have, you don't have to have everybody in the world hear your story, but you got to have somewhere between 3 and 10. I mean, that know the story, and you got to be able to just talk about it. The Bible calls that confession. It says confess your sins, and another word for that is lacks. Your lacks, you have some lacks that you may be healed, and you just tell them the story. And you've picked the right people so that they don't judge you, they don't move away from you, they're not turned off by you, you're not making them depressed. They're just with you saying, tell me more, I want to know more. That feels overwhelming, it feels lost. Because for you to go in the grief process, you can't go in the grief process all alone, Karen. You've got to go in the grief process with some people in your tank that can help you tolerate the loss. So once you've told your story, what happens then, sometimes at the same time, is that not just the story comes up, but the feelings come up. And a lot of times there's a lot of anger. Like, this is not right, this is wrong. And you got to have people who can take your anger and say, your anger is okay with me. You are protesting an evil thing, and I get it. So make sure you got people that can hear the anger. And generally speaking, underneath the anger is the sadness. I love that man, and I don't have what we had anymore, and I feel so bad. And then what happens is we go into a place where we receive comfort. And comfort says people start filling you up in those broken places that are so raw and so destroyed. And their warmth, their eye contact, their empathy, their attunement, it doesn't bring your husband back, but it takes those places where you've been just devastated, begins to put the medicine of attunement in there. Now, I'm giving you some stage-wise things, Karen. These are things to do in a certain order. Now, the next thing to do is you've got to make sure you've got good boundaries so it can never happen again. And that's a whole separate issue, but I have to say that because if he's still in the marriage, there's got to be counseling, but maybe has got to be a legal separation for a while or something, structure separation. You cannot put yourself, at risk again. If you're staying married, you can't do that because that will make the injury much, much, much worse. He's got to do some major changes. So set some good boundaries, all the boundaries books that Henry Cloud and I wrote. And then you begin to basically go into a forgiveness process. I'm not saying this is in a day. This is going to take a while. It's going to take months. And you begin to cancel the debt. And then after that, it's called adaptation. And you begin to set a new life where you got betrayed and you admitted it and you faced it and you got people supporting you and you were angry and you were sad. And then if you stay with that, the grief begins to resolve. Grief is not forever if it's done right. Depression can be forever if you don't do it right, but grief is not forever. You begin to feel like it was bad, but I got so many other things in my life and I was heard and understood, and I want to adapt and find whatever, a new way of living, new relationships, better relationships, this kind of thing. That's the path, and I wish you well. It's very, very hard, but it's doable. Now, before I go into our next call, I do want to mention that if you like kind of how we answer the questions and the ways we find solutions here, whether it's leadership or whether it's coaching you through something or something in the counseling realm, we have a place you can learn to do this for yourself. It's called the Townsend Institute of Leadership and Counseling at Concordia University, Irvine, California. We are a fully accredited online program where you can get a master's and get licensed as a counselor, or you can get a certificate in counseling. Now you can get a PhD in counseling. We just opened up our PhD program. Second track besides counseling is coaching. Yeah, we have a degree in executive coaching and consulting, or a certificate in that, if you want to be a coach, because coaching is just going exponential in terms of interest in it these days. The third one is in leadership. I had 2 leadership calls. Organizational leadership, a master's in organizational leadership or certificate in leadership. And we've got all the accreditations. We've got all the sort of the permissions you've got to have forever better. We've got the highest level of permissions. And we've got tons and tons of students. We've got a wonderful staff and faculty who are doing great work. And now we've been around about 5 years here at Concordia. And the cool thing is now we know we've got field research that says what kind of jobs people are getting. And it's just kind of amazing. People are getting wonderful jobs. If you kind of think this is, hey, COVID was one application from COVID is what's really important, what's my passion, what I want to do. We're for you, and we'll train you. And we give you skills. I'm there all the time. I'm teaching all the time. So are my great faculty. But the cool thing about what's happened in the field research about the students who are now alums is they're getting wonderful jobs. I had one who got her master's recently, and she's been out in the Midwest counseling center. And I asked her how she's doing, She goes, I'm doing great. I got a full-time job. They hired me. And after a few months of using the approach that we were taught in the Institute, she says, my peers are asking me to supervise them. Well, let's sit on that for a second. My peers, not my supervisees, are asking me to supervise them. That's the kind of training people are getting. And we're also finding when people do an internship, because we have a lot of field placement, try this out. Everybody's got to have field placement, whether it's leadership or coaching or counseling, to get the sort of the roll your sleeves up. A lot of them are getting full-time jobs. Very high percentage. The supervisor of the place sees one of our students and goes, when you're done, we want you full-time. So if that sounds good to you, go to the website, sign up. We're having lots and lots of interest, and people are getting great experiences. So that's the Institute. Okay, Stacy, what's up? And who's up?
Okay. So first of
By
all,
the way, I'm still drinking this sparkling water.
well, I haven't heard any more burps out of you.
Yeah, I think I'm better in control. So who knows?
Okay. First of all, I just want to apologize to our audience. We seem to be having some technical difficulties with Zoom today. If you've tried to call in and you've been booted out or you weren't able to get in, let me give you that number one more time. We have a few minutes left on the show. It's 1-877-853-5257. 1-877-853-5257. When you call, use meeting ID number 876-5437-2012 to enter the waiting room. And that's 876-5437-2012.
So be like Gladys and
yes.
be strong and courageous and talk.
Okay, so yes, we have to deal with the tech gremlins sometimes, but thank goodness we've got lots of questions coming in. So Dr. Townsend, Julie is asking, and she is on Facebook. She's asking, how can she help someone who has agoraphobia and panic attacks? That's a close person in her life.
Yeah, we're finding so much more of that happening. Julie, is it Julie or Julie?
Julie,
we're finding so many people after the what they've been through, especially how anxiety just spiked, and agoraphobia and panic attacks are kind of subsets of the whole anxiety diagnostic spectrum. And it's just blown up because of COVID. Sure, happy to help. Now, here's the first thing: get them to a therapist. These are both clinical issues. Agoraphobia is a clinical issue, and so is what was the second one, Stacy? Agoraphobia, and I didn't write that one down.
And panic attacks.
And panic attacks. Those are clinical issues. I mean, it'd be sort of like saying, I've got a friend with diabetes, how I help them? Well, I'd say go to a doctor, right? So part one is encourage them, because unless, I don't know very many cases like that. If somebody's got full-blown agoraphobia and full-blown panic attacks, they just cross what we call in my world the clinical line. If you'd said, oh, she doesn't have agoraphobia, but sometimes she gets nervous in open places, but doesn't really affect it, she just gets kind of antsy, that did not cross the clinical line of severity. And if you said, oh, sometimes she gets kind of like scared when she's in places, that's not a panic attack. She does not cross the line of clinical severity. So you mentioned those words, and those are clinical words, just like diabetes is. So number one, but I mean, that's the very best way you can help her. And then make sure, tell her, when you go see Dr. X, would you mind asking Dr. X how I can help you? Best thing you can do is have her go to the person who's the pro and say, Dr. X, I like your approach. I think I'm going to take you on as my therapist, and I think it's a big experience. I've got a friend who wants to know how she can support me in this. And then you'll know you're getting an integrated approach, because the pro is treating her, but also the pro is coaching you, and those two shake hands. It's not like there's some crazy idea that you're doing that you read in some book, and the therapist goes, what is she doing with you? That's what I would do. Finally, I would say you can never go wrong with attunement. And you can never go wrong with just having empathy and saying, tell me more about it. Must have been scary. What happened? You don't have to fix them or anything. But when in doubt, attune. Be empathic. Read my book, People Feel. Talk about how to do it. It's a skill beyond all skills. And I'm glad that you're her friend, Julie.
Okay, John, your next question comes from Justine. She is piggybacking off of this also because she's listening, and she says she's always been told that anxiety comes with a racing heartbeat. She said, but I feel as if I go into a fight or flight freeze state without the racing heartbeat, and my mind is unable to focus, but I don't recognize anxiety as it is typically described. Is what I'm experiencing really anxiety?
Not necessarily, Justine. Anxiety can take many forms. Most of the time, there are some body sensations like the racing heart and all that. But gosh, I wish we could talk. Let me just kind of take you through a couple of, I'm going to go through some diagnostic trees. If whatever you're experiencing, if it's because you had to take a big risk, or you were sideswiped by your car, or somebody yelled at you that scared you, whatever, or you got a performance thing where you got to perform and you're scared of speaking in front of, people and all that. If there's an anxiety producing event in your life, Justine, and you don't feel these things, you just feel everything shutting down. That is just another and separate coping mechanism that your brain is saying, we're going to cut this off before you can even get to the racing heartbeat. And it's kind of a good thing your heart does that, your brain does that sometimes, because it sort of keeps the body controlled. And we would call that some kind of detachment. We're all attaching people. We want to connect emotionally with everybody else and with God. But if your brain did that, it's saying, I'm cutting it off of the past because it's going to get too scary. I don't want you to be at 150 BP, pulse. And so it just cuts you off of the past to save you. And that's not a bad thing. But I would take that to your therapist and say, okay, I need to be able to experience the anxiety before it cuts off, because I can't even recognize it. So that's one thing I would do. The second thing is, and I want you to just think about this, it could be that what you're experiencing is not anxiety at all. If you're feeling nothing, what I've heard you say is, I feel nothing when I'm at a stressful event. I don't feel anything except for the shutdown. We don't know that you are splitting off. It's called splitting off, detaching from anxiety. It could be something else too, Justine. It could be anger. If anger was like prohibited in your family, you had to be happy, you couldn't be mad. You could be splitting off anger, or you could be splitting off great sadness, just like Karen talked about. And because maybe your family said, oh, we're all positive people, we can't be sad. So I would be curious as, what am I feeling underneath the detachment? Because it could be one of several things, and investigate that. I would get a few sessions with a therapist to make sure that you have a safe place, because they can evoke that situation, and you can take a little bit of it, not too much, kind of, just enough stress to go, oh, I just got mad. Oh, I just felt nervous. Oh, I just felt sad. And it's manageable, so you don't have to get overwhelmed and really go into fight flight, which you don't want. Hope that's helpful.
Okay, John. Ava on Facebook is asking the difference between coaching versus counseling. She says she's struggling with changing some aspects of her life, and someone has suggested to her to hire a life coach. What is the difference, and what's the benefit between the two?
Yeah, we get that a lot at the Institute, because we have a master's in coaching degree as a master in counseling. So we really had to work out that they're related, but they're very different. Here's the number one thing, Ava. The function and purpose of counseling is to heal brokenness. The function and purpose of counseling is to heal brokenness. People are depressed because there's something broken in their heart. Maybe they can't connect, maybe they don't have a voice, or maybe they judge themselves, or maybe they feel insecure. Or people with anxiety have a brokenness, same thing. Maybe they can't connect, maybe they don't have a voice, maybe they judge themselves, maybe they feel insecure, or marriage problems, or that sort of thing. It's healing brokenness. The function of coaching is to develop someone from good to great. So, oh, I'm an okay mother, I want to be a great mother. I've got an okay marriage, I want to have a great marriage. I'm okay in my business, I want to have a great business. So if it's about developing and growing where something's not really broken, but you want to be better at it, you go get a coach. If it's something that's broken inside and the goal is not to be great at something, it's to be healed and normal, then you get a therapist. And a lot of people do both. They see a shrink to get the broken things fixed, and they see a coach to say,
Hello?
hold on a second. And they say, what was it? My brain went crazy. Okay. And they say, on Tuesdays, I see my shrink because I want to make sure I can attach and have a voice. On Thursdays, I go to my coach and say, I want a better career. I want to have great skills as a mom or a dad or whatever. So one's about developing, the other about brokenness. Hey, who is this? I'm John.
Caller, you're
Hello?
live. You're live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Okay. Hi, I'm Linda.
Linda,
unfortunately,
unfortunately, we've got like 1 minute. So I'm going to have to give you a sort of Reader's Digest version of the answer, but I'll try to do a good job.
Okay. Well, I'll pick one thing that was right now.
Okay.
Caregiving for my 89-year-old father who has dementia. Just trying to take care of myself in the midst of it. I know that's a lot, real packed, but I know you can tell me something. I'll call back another day.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal, but I don't think you're asking me, how do I take care of my grandfather? Sounds like you don't need tips on that. It's more about you. Do I have that right?
You do have that right.
Okay, here's what I tell everybody in this. This is an 8-hour seminar. We'll do it in 1 minute, but here's the bottom line. You become what is essential to him that only you're Linda, right?
Melinda.
Melinda, you do what only Melinda can do as a daughter. But you delegate out everything else. And with dementia, they won't like that. And they'll feel like you're abandoning them. You've got to it says, like it says in Isaiah, where it says that Jesus, he set his face like a flint. He says, you hate me. You don't want me around. I thought you'd be there to watch TV with me. I thought you'd be with my meals. And you let him beat you up emotionally because you're a grown up and his brain's not there. You don't take it personally. And you do what is basically essential. Not a lot of bodily function things unless you're the only person who can do them. But you delegate, hire to the extent of what your finances are, so that his daughter, who loves him and wants to see him into, his life and death and eternity, is there for him. You do the relational kind things. Let people handle the other stuff. That's number one. Number two, you make sure somebody's filling your tank. Don't give every night, every week. You got to be some groups where you can say, it's awful. I feel empty. I feel powerless. I love the guy's not even here. And you can cry and you can vent and people go, we're on your team. Keep that tank full because it's a very stressful job. And thanks for calling, Melinda.
Okay. Thank you. You hit it right on the nail. Thank you so much.
All righty. Well, Stacy, what's some wonderful, wonderful people today. Even with the tech gremlins, I just loved all our callers.
Absolutely. And if you didn't get to talk with John today, please remember we're on each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the number is always posted on all of his media pages. You can call in and chat with him each week.
All right. Thank you, Stacy. And thank you guys, those of you that sent in a question, those of you that talked, and those of you who do listen. And have a good week.